Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest, a legendary, a former WWE announcer for many, many years. He is the legendary Mr. Tony Chimel. Tony, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Glad to be here, John.
What's going on in your world? What have you been up to?
Well, after WWE, I really didn't have anything going on for a little bit, and then got a job at Trader Joe's. So I've been working at Trader Joe's a little bit here and there. So, or actually full time. So I love it there, and the place is great, and life is good.
Where are you? You still in New Jersey, or
Now,
you're?
I was born and raised in Jersey. Lived there for 40 years. My wife is from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So after about I don't know a few years, we decided to move since her parents were still up in Wilkes-Barre. Mine were in South Jersey. We kind of moved in between, and we moved to a little town called Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania, which is about 40, 50 miles north of Philly. And after the kids went on their own and got married or moved in with their girlfriends or moved out, whatever, we decided to move down here to Fort Myers. So that's where we are now, and we love it here. We've been here for a little more than three
Somebody
years.
I Yeah, somebody I know was saying that it's not Wilkes-Barre, it's Wilkes-Barre or something like that. I was like, that I never
Uh,
heard that before.
yeah,
It's
I don't
weird.
know. I call it Wilkes-Barre or
Yeah, so
Wilkes.
do I. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good little coal mining region up there in upstate Pennsylvania.
Were you surprised when you got released from WWE? Because I know, obviously, I was talking to Mike Chioda. He was shocked too. You guys were around the same time. Were you surprised by the release?
Yeah, I was shocked. I mean, I went through all sorts of different phases of getting let go. I mean, when the pandemic hit, I was willing to go and travel and do shows and do whatever and just continue to do my job. And obviously, they weren't running shows all over the country because of that, but they started running shows in Orlando, which is, only 2 or 3 hours from where I live now and where I lived. And I offered to go there, and they were saying no, they didn't want me there, and things like that. And then finally, I got a call saying that I was furloughed, and I still offered to go back and work there and do what I was doing and all that. And then finally, got a call from Kevin Dunn saying that I was being let go.
Is he the one that makes those calls? I never heard. It's usually like Johnny Ace, somebody. I have never heard of Kevin Dunn making those
Well,
calls.
Johnny Ace works more with the talent. At this stage, I really was. I mean, Kevin really technically wasn't my boss, but he makes a lot of decisions. And uh, I guess he was the one that I don't know if he made the decision or that new guy, Khan or whatever, made the decision because I'm sure they had independent contractors working in the production office and doing what I was doing for probably a lot less money than I was. And at 59, 60 years of age back then, they probably said, oh, we can just let him go. And, I guess it was a good timing thing for them and a good reason, you know.
What do you think of Kevin, just in general?
Me, I don't think he ever really liked me. I don't really have anything bad about him. I mean, I've gotten two calls from him in my 38 years there. One telling me I was furloughed, the other one telling me I was fired. Uh, I don't hate anybody, but I don't think that he was. I don't know. I don't want to say he wasn't happy with me because all my bosses were, and all of my people that I worked with were, and I always had good reviews and things like that. I just don't think he liked me for whatever reason. I don't know.
Who were some of your bosses? Who were like some of the people you worked with?
Sean Selman was my direct boss. Also, and then up the ladder, it went, I think, to Duncan Leslie and then Mike Grossman. I mean, I've had a whole bunch of different bosses, but at the time I was firing, I think it went like Sean and then Duncan. And then I don't know if Mike Grossman was still there, but another step or two and it got to Kevin. So, you know.
What about Vince? Like, what did he think of you? What was your relationship with Vince McMahon?
I always had a good relationship with Vince. Vince was always nice to me. Vince never had a problem with me. Vince would always joke around with me and stuff like that. And Vince gave me a career for 38 years. I got no ill will till Vince or for Vince, and he always treated me great and was always nice to me. Even stuck by me when I had an issue with one of my bosses a long time ago, and he stuck with me and stuck up for me, which I really appreciate it, and still grateful for that to this day.
Did you work under him though at all? It's he's
Vince,
much more removed.
no, at that stage, Vince really doesn't. Maybe they might say, hey, we have we can save thousands of dollars here, or millions of dollars here if we cut back here, and he's probably like, okay, then cut back, and then it just trickles on down the line, to who they let go or what they do or anything like that. I was always, the thing that bothered me the most was I was always willing to go to work and always willing to do whatever they wanted me to do. And I kind of feel like I got a little kick to the curb, where the pandemic gave them an excuse to let me go, for lack of a better judgment. I don't know. I don't think I was let go by performance or anything like that. I think I was probably either making too much and they wanted to cut corners. When they always say that they're cutting corners and they're trying to save money, but yet the company always makes more money all the time. So I don't know.
Does that bug you at all, though? Because when I was talking to Mike, the same thing. It was like, okay, you made billions, literally billions. Like they had the best quarter ever, and they're cutting people. Does that bother you? Because it's almost like, wait a second, how could you cut people? You had the best quarter you've ever had in the history of the company.
Yeah, I went through the bitter stage, and I'm past that right now. And but that's what every company does. I always say the answer to everything is money. And yeah, they might be making billions, but guess what? They want to make more billions. So how can they make more billions?
Yep.
And the next question is how do we make more billions? And then the next question is how do we make more trillions? So they're always, the bottom line to Vince was always how is that making us money? And that was always the bottom line to everything, you know.
Yep.
And a lot of time, unless you're in some union gig, the older guy that's making the more money is going to get cut for the younger guy who makes less money. And it happens in every job. So it's not just WWE. It's pretty much a lot of places where you might be doing a good job and doing what you're supposed to do, but they're going to look for somebody that's cheaper, and that's how they save money.
What do you think about Vince retiring? Shockingly, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I do not see Vince sitting on a beach in Florida and not doing anything. He could be retired. That's fine. You know, I refuse to believe that he's not having any input in anything in that company. And it'd be interesting to see if he's still on the payroll or he got a severance package or what goes on with that when you become owner of the company. Is he now not owner? Does he not own any stock? You know, does he have nothing to do with the company? Does he not talk about business to Steph or Shane or Hunter or anybody? I don't know about that. I that's his world. That's his life. That business. And he created a great business and he created a great career for me for 38 years. And I don't believe he can be retired or not in the input or not backstage or anything like that. There's no way I'm believing that he doesn't have any say or no comments about any of that stuff. Or is it getting paid by the company? I don't know.
To me, I was like, I wasn't sure about that stuff too. So I asked somebody smarter than me that knows a lot about money. And they were saying he's still the owner. He still has 80% control of the board and he still owns 51% of the company. So it's like, how could he kind of not be involved? Or how can you not go to him for stuff because
That's not
he's the
retired
owner?
as far as I'm concerned. That's not retired as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, to me, it's like I would have to still go to the guy. He still controls the company. He's still the owner.
Right. So it's
I
not
wonder.
like, it's not like, he's some owner of a football franchise who sold the team.
Right.
He didn't do that. So, That's why I say, he might. He's in the back. He's probably he's not making decisions like he used to make. That's for sure. But not having anything to do with it, I don't buy that. And if you're saying he still, owns most of the stock, then how much retired can you be? You know?
And some of the things I see on TV are very much in line to what Vince would like. You know what I mean? Like you see some things like that's a Vince thing. That's not a Triple H thing. You know what I mean? As far as some of the booking and some of the
Yeah, but I
direction.
also see some Triple H things too. You can tell, well, he's getting his guys back again, and I don't really follow it all that much to tell you the truth. But I heard that Road Dogg is back,
Yep.
who I always liked, and he was always good. You can tell Hunter's bringing his guys back, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard they're allowed to say the fans instead of the WWE Universe anymore. I don't know. Vince would always put these weird things. You can't say this and you can't say that, which I never got. But it's his company. He ran it his way, and he certainly had great success.
What are some of the other things you can't say? I know wrestling was banned. Now that's back because Drew McIntyre said I'm a wrestler in a wrestling
Oh,
ring that
really?
likes to
Is that what
wrestle.
it
Yeah.
is? Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't say. So yeah, you couldn't say the talent wasn't they're WWE superstars, and it's the WWE universe, and they're not house shows; they're live events, and they're the rest or the agents that were in charge of the shows at house shows were were called agents. Now they changed that. They're producers. So
Very weird. I think it was you weren't allowed to say
yeah, they
belt
pick
or
over.
strap.
What's that? Oh yeah, you can't. I would always say, hey, the wrestlers at the house show today are going to put the strap on the line in front of all the fans. Wrong, 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 wrong. So whatever. It's just words. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's very weird. It was like other guys are wrestlers for that company. You're in WWE. You're a superstar. Like you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like he,
I know. I'm not a baseball player. I'm a, all-star or something. I don't know.
yeah, you're a New York Yankee. Like you're not just a player. You're like, yeah, it's interesting.
Don't call me a New York Yankee. I don't want to be that.
Oh, you're a boy Red Sox fan?
No, Mets.
Oh, Mets. Oh, okay, all right. Hey, they look pretty good.
Yeah, they do. You know, I love this new owner guy. He's phenomenal, and he's doing all the right things. And I love the way they're running the organization and stuff like that. We'll just have to see. They just took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers, which I was pretty impressed with. And they got great pitching. I hope DeGrom stays healthy, and if their hitting comes through, that's what it's all about: pitching, defense, and then if you get that timely hitting, you can go a long way.
Oh yeah. The funny thing is like when the Wilpons owned it, it was like, is this a Dodgers franchise? They're obsessed with Jackie Robinson and the Dodgers. Cohen, it's Mets old timers day. Willie
Right? Yeah.
Mays getting his number retired. Keith Hernandez. I mean, this guy is great for the team.
Right. Yeah, I know, and that's what I love. He gets the statue of Seaver out there, and they retire Hernandez's number, and they bring back the old timers. He loves the Mets history, and he's a Met fan, and he loves to spend money too, which is okay by me.
Yes, that's the key thing.
But
Wilpons
he
are cheap.
does it. But he does it wisely too. He does it wisely, and they go out and they get players, and they get the right type of player.
Definitely, for sure. But just rewinding back for you, how did you actually get into WWF like to begin with? Was that through Joey Marella or Gorilla Monsoon?
Yeah, yeah. I grew up in South Jersey in a town called Willingboro, New Jersey, and
Oh, yeah. Very
right,
familiar.
right down the street, we lived in a nice little neighborhood. I loved where I grew up, but maybe when I was about 7 years old or something, we're playing street hockey out in the street there in front of our houses, and up comes a new kid that just moved into the neighborhood and said, "Hey, I'm Joey. Can I play?" And we're like, "Yeah, yeah." And just over time, you grew a relationship with them, and then you find out his dad's a wrestler. And we were kids, so we all watched wrestling on Saturday mornings. Sometimes, we knew about it and we knew who he was and all that. And I just became good friends with them, and we hung out. He was a couple years younger than me. But we went to the same high school together, and he'd play. We all played the same sports. Football, basketball, baseball, street hockey, whatever. And he was just part of the neighborhood, and you got to be close to him and stuff like that. And Gorilla owned part of this is before Vince owned the company. When Vince Senior owned it, I think he owned part of it, and Gorilla owned part of it, and Arnold Skoland owned part of it, and there was a guy out in Harrisburg named Phil Zatko, I believe, that owned part of it. And Gorilla had a ring, and we would either during the summertime or on vacations or something like that, have we'd go and drive the ring truck to a place in like Baltimore or Scranton, PA, or Harrisburg or something like that, and you would just do it occasionally, and then we'd sell programs and make like I don't know 10 cents off a program or something like that you sold. And then when Vince's dad died, I guess Vince bought Gorilla out and all of that, and bought the other guys out. And maybe a couple weeks after that, Vince called Gorilla and said, "Hey, did your son want to work for me and set the ring up, and he can bring a friend?" And Joey brought me, and that's how I got in the door in November of 1983. And we just started driving around and setting rings up, and then the business just started to expand as Vince made it. And, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger all the time.
Well, just by happenstance. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Yeah, crazy.
I said I was very lucky to get the job, but I think that I was also very good to keep the job for 38 years.
So when do you go from like ring crew to announcing? I guess it was somewhere around 89, right? Like, does that just happen because you guys are running so many shows? They need A announcers, B announcers, etc.
Well, I think it was a slow process. I mean, when I first started, we'd set the ring up and then just go hang out in the parking lot or the ring truck or something like that until the show was over and tear the ring down. But over time, as things got more involved, you would take jackets, you would, ring the bell, you would play the music also. And each one of those jobs paid you like $50 extra. So, we would do anything. But the first time I ever announced was one time. I think we were doing a show in like East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, or something at some high school, and the ring announcer didn't show up. And Joey said to me, he's like, "Do you want to ring announce?" Or Arnold Skoland wants to know if you want to ring announce because the guy didn't show up. And I'm like, I don't know how to ring announce. I never did it before. I'm dressed here in like sweatpants and a t-shirt.
Yep.
And he's like, well, he says he'll pay you like $100. And I said, okay, well, I'll do it. So I just sat at ringside and announced, the wrestlers that were coming out. I wasn't even in the ring. I just sat by the table there. I think Tony Atlas was at that show. So I probably announced him and maybe like Mike Sharp and some of those other guys. But that was the first time. And then after a while, just by sitting at ringside, I got to learn a lot from like Mel Phillips, who was there at that time, and Howard. You'd see them guys doing stuff, and I forget who it was, but they were just like, get a suit, you can ring announce, and I slowly started doing that, and then they were like, well, he's pretty good, and he's got to be there to set up the ring, so we can kill two birds with one stone. We got an announcer that's going to be there because the ring's going to be there. So, that's how I got my foot in the door with that.
Pretty good though, right? I mean, again, a little bit of luck involved, but yeah,
lucky to get the job, good to keep the job.
yes.
And one of the big things that happened was I was announcing overseas one time, and I think Bruce Pritchard was there, and he heard me ring announce, and I think he was impressed. And I think that got back to Vince at some point in time. And then they were starting to ask me to do TVs and stuff like that. So I think I started doing like Wrestling Challenge or something like that.
So it's like a gradual process of like little by little you're getting recognized and moving up the ladder.
It's almost kind of like going up the ladder and, double A to triple A to the major leagues,
and eventually, obviously, become the SmackDown announcer. This is, I mean, many years later. But
Yeah.
so, how does that come about? They just need a separate announcer for the show. They trust you. They
Well, I
like
think
you.
I was doing Raw, and when Raw, when so they started to get SmackDown. Uh, Kevin Dunn came to me and said, Tony, we're going to take you off Raw. We want you to do SmackDown. And he's like, don't take it as a slight. SmackDown is going to be still a big show and all of that. Don't be disappointed. And then, my personal opinion, SmackDown was doing better than Raw because SmackDown had The Rock and all that. But Raw was always their baby,
Yeah,
always.
definitely.
But and I taught a lot of the people that, that was a tricky thing too. It's like, hey, Lillian's going to sit out here with you and you're going to have to teach her, and Justin's going to have to sit out here and teach him. Sorry, somebody was knocking at my door.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, the dogs go nuts. Yeah.
He'll be fine though. But yeah, I mean, I'm teaching them, and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm teaching people that are probably going to take my job one day.
Right.
So, but to be a team player, those are some of the things you got to do. And like my boss Sean always told me, just reinvent yourself and make yourself useful and make yourself valuable to the company. And that's when I was always doing other things like setting the ring up and playing the music. We used to run cameras. We used to do music. We used to time keep. We used to, take pictures. We did all that stuff. Drive the truck, and that's why I started working in the production office as well. So that's
When
how.
you are like, teaching the next thing, did Howard Finkel kind of do that for you? Like, was he helping you along?
Yeah, a little bit of TVs because at house shows I just kind of learned and just went and kind of did things on my own, and you learn from everybody, like, and you just try to get your own style and your own thing going. But Howard helped me at TVs, yeah.
It was almost like you became the new Howard. You know what I mean? Like, you became the voice of the WWF for a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's nice of you to say. I don't know. I don't want to brag. I always consider myself the best, but that's just my opinion.
Oh, Howard, absolutely the best. I mean, just his voice, just it resonates with and new WWF
Yeah,
World. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That
Howard
just
was very good too. Yeah,
like burned it in your memory with Howard. And you guys had a match, right? Didn't you guys have a match where you
yeah.
were like going to take over the duties, which was
Well,
obviously
I
more
think he wanted.
comedy?
I was doing either Raw or SmackDown, and he came out. He was with Jericho or something, and he uh, came out to me, pushed me or something like that, and then we had some match or whatever, and I beat him. That was. I think they like to do that stuff to Howard. So it is what
Little
it is.
pranking and stuff on him.
Yeah, yeah, stuff like that. Prank him and make him lose a match on TV. I think that's for some of the higher ups' own happiness or you know whatever, as opposed to whatever else they're putting on TV.
So just to give himself a laugh, almost.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everyone loved Howard. We all loved Howard, and I think he loved doing whatever he was doing, and he would do anything for that company. It's pretty much I did too, and you just went out there and you did what they wanted, and if they wanted two announcers to fight, that's what we did.
Yeah, just I don't know, not out of place, but it's one of those things where it's like that's not normal. Like announcer versus announcer, or who's going to announce SmackDown. A
Yeah,
little weird.
I know. I don't make those decisions, so that's up to the higher ups. I just did what I was told. So
How did you like develop your style? Because like Gary Michael Capetta is obviously different than Howard Finkel. Who's different than let's like Just Rob. I mean, everybody's different, but how do you like develop your own style of being the announcer?
Um, just over time, the more comfortable you get doing it, the more things you try and the more things you just want to do. And, I would just try and emphasize different parts of people's names and stuff like that. And, if you're announcing John Cena, you might make the John sound bigger than Cena or something like that. Or, the Undertaker, you make that sound a little bit different or a little bit better than others, and you just try and make your own little style. I mean, not everyone's going to be the same, but you just try to do your own little thing and make it that way.
With you, I mean, there's so many guys that you kind of stand out. Like Howard, obviously, was more like Hulk Hogan, like like that stands up. But you're
We
like,
all imitate
yeah,
Howard. He's
yes.
great.
Even subconsciously, I'll like
Yeah.
imitate Howard.
Oh, we
Yeah,
would do it backstage too. We always said that he should be on like a GPS or something and turn right. You
yes,
know?
yes, yeah. It's like that little guy, but he had such a boastful voice that yeah, it
Yeah.
just stuck in your head.
Yeah.
But you're like John Cena, like that is awesome. Like that just literally came up off the fly because everyone says
Yeah.
that for Cena.
Yeah. I know. Well, it's. I guess that's a form of flattery.
Yeah, definitely. Where's that come from? Like, did you just think of that off the fly, or
Yeah.
something?
You just don't want to say John Cena. You want to try and put him over big, so the fans really get a bigger pop for him and stuff like that. And that's all I was trying to do was just I guess be loud and proud.
Did he like it?
Oh yeah, he liked my announcing, sure.
Because it seemed like it gave it like an extra oomph, like John Cena. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't sound good, but like if he's coming out and it goes John Cena, I mean, it just sounds like this guy. Oh, like you elevates it. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And I would like to try and hold it. He would have to have a special way of coming into the ring, and he'd be at the top of the ramp or something. And I would try to hold the John for as long as he slid into the ring, and then I would say Cena.
Right.
So sometimes at house shows, he would be like out there on the ramp for like a little bit longer than usual because he knew I was trying to hold it as long as I could. So.
Did Vince and Kevin Dunn, did they like love that? Did they say anything to you? Like, oh, great job. That really adds to it.
I mean, as long as you weren't, I think I always tried to put the talent over, not myself. And that's what I think, they wouldn't like, is if you're doing it to put yourself over, it's different than if you're trying to put the talent over. And I always tried to put the talent over because let's face it, they're not paying their money to see me. They're paying their money to see the John Cenas and the Rocks and the Takers and all those guys. So I always wanted to try to put the talent over. And Vince or Kevin really didn't give, I mean, unless you really did something really stupid, they were thinking of doing the other things while I was announcing.
To me, though, that adds to it. Like even like you said with the
Oh yeah,
Undertaker, the way you said the Undertaker, it just I don't know, it made it more impactful. I mean, it was
yeah,
just great the way you said it.
right. Now, if I just went out and said the Undertaker, Vince would probably be like, he's be a little bit more enthusiastic about it, or does he not even give a shit if the Taker's coming out,
Yep.
So.
I think the one you're most associated with is Edge, the rated R superstar
Yeah,
Edge, right? I mean, and obviously Beth Phoenix brought you out for the Hall of Fame stuff.
yeah, that was nice of her. That was a highlight, one of the highlights of my career doing that. And that was pretty nice of her to do that.
Does that show you that Edge obviously loves the way you do it and announce it? It makes him seem more important.
Sure. Yeah, Edge loved that announcement, and I love doing it. And like you said, it became a thing, and it was really nice, and it was fun to do it. And who knows if I'll ever do it again? But I hear other people doing it. But to me, it's not the same.
No. When you get like a switch in the announcer, even in like your head subconsciously, you're like, I'd rather Chimel do it. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah, either
rated R
that or find your
superstar.
own thing.
Yep.
That's my thing. Find your own thing.
Where did you get the just thought to yourself like I'm gonna make this superstar sound a little bit go up and down?
No. I used to travel with Jimmy Corderas, referee, a lot.
Oh yeah.
And when we would travel in the car, we'd always talk about the business and, the world and how to make things better in the business, how to make things better in the world or whatever. And, when somebody would do something stupid, we would, say something like Wile E. Coyote, super genius, and that led to when Super Crazy came to WWE, I was announcing him as Super Crazy. And he wasn't there that long, but then when Edge became the rated R superstar, I figured I'd throw it in there. And
Yeah.
that was took off, and that one he really liked, and Edge really loved when I did that, and I enjoyed doing it.
With so many obviously legendary guys. Who's your favorite guy that like you've ever announced? Like as far as like doing it, Cena, Undertaker, Edge, like you're somebody else.
No, all those the top guys were all great, and they were all great to announce. I mean, Cena was always good, and we'd have fun. And The Rock was always great to announce, and Austin, and all the girls and the divas, and all of those people. It was just fun to announce everybody. And you could put a little spin, or just emphasize different parts of pretty much everybody's name. You know, and it was just a fun experience and a fun career.
As we wind it down here, we head towards the finish. What do you think is like the legacy of Tony Chimel? Like if somebody would say like Tony Chimel, and people think of obviously great announcer, but like what do you think when people say your name?
I want him to think that I had a small part in helping build that company from the beginning. I started in November of '83 when Vince pretty much took over, and I lasted until November of I think 2019 or 2020. Anyway, I had like 38 years in the company, and I want people to think just I wasn't just the announcer guy. I did a lot of other things and made a lot of sacrifices for my family and stuff like that. Being on the road upwards of 24 days a month when your wife is at home with 3 kids, and and you're not always there to parent, and you're not always there to do things. It's a lot of sacrifices. It's not just you know 2 hours on TV once or twice a week. I mean, we'd be going overseas for 14, 17 days in a row. We'd be doing these tours in Japan and then coming back and doing TVs when you're on the road for 7, 10 days at a time, and then you're home for 2 or 3 days, and the next thing you know, you're packing because you got to go for another 3 or 4 days. And sometimes you're married to the business and not married to your family, which is a tough call to make. And what do you do? I mean, the business provided my family with a lot of good things, but the business also took me away from my family for a lot of good things too. But just people remember that I just wasn't a ring announcer. I did a lot of other things too. And sometimes I'd be walking in that building at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and not leaving it until midnight. So I'm just not an announcer. I did a lot of other things too. And I want to feel like people like me and Chioda and Mark Yaton and Joey Marella and a lot of these people backstage helped build the company. Corderis, did I say Corderis? I know he
Yep.
watched a lot of this stuff, but you know, we all helped build this company, and Vince was a great leader and a great owner, and you know, I we all grew with the company. It went from driving a little box truck with the ring in it, to millions of dollars of TV equipment. So we grew with the company and helped build the company.
What's next for you? Anything else like wrestling related or no?
Well, I don't know. I'm always willing to listen if people want to ask me. I'd be willing to do anything. But I'm happy at Trader Joe's and working there and surviving okay and home every day. And I probably see my wife the last 3 or 4 years more than I did the last 38 years. So
Right. Yep.
I mean, it's and she hasn't killed me yet. So I'm surviving that. So yeah, it's all good. I mean, I'm willing to listen to anybody or whatever, but right now I'm very happy at Trader Joe's, and that's what I'm doing.
Where can everybody find you? Like social media and all the other stuff. I know you
I
got
am on
Cameo too.
Twitter. Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I also on Cameo, which I like to call Chimeo, but I just all that information is on my Twitter profile. Uh, I do that. The cameos I love doing. I mean, I've done all sorts of ones. I'd like to do more if people ask. I just congratulated somebody on their first wedding anniversary and stuff like that. I welcomed a newborn kid into the world, the usual happy birthday stuff. And people are very nice on there and they ask me to do things and I'll do them. So hook me up on Cameo or look me up on Twitter.
Awesome. All right, Tony, thank you so much for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure. Anytime.